Welcome back to my channel at Maiora. You already know me, I am Sara Albanese, and today I'm going to talk about something that is quite tricky, and I'm going to answer your questions. You're often asking me to talk about English prepositions. So there are many, obviously, as there are in any other languages, but today I've chosen three of them, the most common ones, and those who can often cause mistakes, because sometimes we don't know whether we should pick one or the other in similar situations. So today we are going to explain the use of these three prepositions, which are in, on, and at. First of all of them have two different meanings or are used in two different kinds of expressions. So in order to express time and in order to express place, okay? So I've divided these two meanings here, and now we're going to explain them. You can already see that they are written inside this sort of a triangle, okay, which is put upside down, and you have probably already seen that. Now I'm going to explain you what it means, okay, what the scheme means and what it represents. So let's start from in. In is on the top, okay, here in the largest part of this triangle. The largest part because in expresses, okay, general periods of time and bigger, we can say, places, okay? So this is why he is in the larger part of our triangle, okay? Because it talks of the widest periods of time and the widest places as well. You can find another definition here in blue, okay, and you find the word inside. So it doesn't only express, you can say, large spaces, but also spaces which contain something, okay, something that is inside that space. We'll see that. Then we can see on. On is here in the middle, okay, in a smaller section of our triangle. Why? Well, on one side, talking about time, okay, it represents, he expresses more specific periods of time, okay, more specific than in, that talks about general periods of time. This is more specific. And on the other side, about places, it talks about smaller places. Smaller places, or eventually, as you can find here in blue, when you're talking about something on the top of something else. Finally, at is here in the tiniest part, okay, of our triangle here, which is upside down. So this is the top actually, but it's here on the bottom, and it's quite tiny, because at expresses very specific periods of time, very specific, very small. And on the other side, it talks also about the smallest places, okay, the most specific places. So this is the meaning, okay, of this triangle. So in general periods of time and large places, on more specific periods of times and smaller places, and finally at very specific periods of times or moments, better, and on the other side the smallest places. Now, let's start talking about each one of them and make examples. So, let's start with the preposition in. Well, in is used, and now we're talking about time, in order to talk about years, and also centuries, decades. Obviously, they are very general, very large periods of time, okay? So, example, in 1989, okay, this is a year. Okay, if you don't remember exactly how we have to read years, please go and check my video about dates, okay, in which I talk very specifically, I explain very specifically how we write and how we read dates in British and American English. So, when we have a year, so in 1989, for example, or when we have a decade, in the 90s, in the 50s, in the 40s, okay, in this case we have the decade and that little s, that small s, okay, at the end of it, and obviously we use the preposition in. In the 90s means that I'm talking about that decade. And I also use in when I'm talking about centuries. In the 19th centuries, in the 20th centuries, in the I don't know, 13th century. Obviously, also in this case, I'm using an ordinal number, okay? In is my preposition, then the article because I've got an ordinal number, and then I write it, okay, the ordinal number, writing down the cardinal part of the number and then the final two letters of the ordinal number, so th in this case, okay, in the 19th. Also in this case, if you don't remember ordinal numbers perfectly, just go and check that video I was talking about before, so about dates, because I explained it in detail, okay, how to create an ordinal number from a cardinal one. So in for years, decades and centuries. But also, okay, and now we get smaller, okay, but it's still a large period of time. Months, but also weeks, but also seasons. So months, obviously, in January, in February, in March, in April, in May, etc., etc. Weeks, okay, in these weeks, for example, in that week, all right? And seasons, in spring and winter, in summer, in autumn, or in fall, if you use a more American English, okay, so 4 seasons. Well, this is all about very general periods of time, okay, large periods of time. But pay very attention, be very, very, very careful. There is an exception. Obviously, as in every single rule, there is at least an exception. So, there are some expressions in which we have to use in, even if they aren't general and they aren't talking about a very long period of time. And I'm talking about the parts of the day. Well, they are quite small actually, but they can't use on or at or whatever, but they have to use in anyway. Example, well, in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon, but pay attention again, not in the night. I can't say in the night, it's incorrect, it's not good, okay? We have to say at night, here, okay, using the preposition at. So this is a double exception, because the exception is that the part of the day uses in, and there is an exception in the exception, okay, which is that one part of the day, night, doesn't use in, but has to use at. All right, we just have to remember that. Then, talking about place. When can we use in actually? So we said for large places, so countries, cities, neighborhoods, countries in England, in Italy, in Japan, okay, but also cities in London, in Rome, in Paris, okay. Neighborhoods, so parts of the cities, so like for example I mentioned here Chinatown because it's very famous, so in Chinatown obviously, so country, then part of the country which is the city or the town, the village, and part of the city which is the neighborhood. But we can also think bigger, and we can also say in Europe, in America, in Asia, in Africa, okay, so we are thinking, okay, about larger places, and I can also say in the world, so there's nothing widest I can think about, okay, well, in the universe too, and whatever. Then this is about what we wrote here in red, so bigger places. But there is also another definition here in blue, which is inside. So I use in to express when that something is inside something else. Example, inside buildings, for example, or inside or in enclosed spaces. Example, in the hotel, okay, this is a building, but also something smaller, in the cupboard. The cupboard, this is quite small actually, it's nothing to do with the countries or I don't know what. This is quite small, but it has another meaning. It's not about large spaces, but it is because it is inside, okay, closed inside a specific place. Now, we go on with the second preposition, and it is the preposition on. So the preposition on is used, as I said before, for more specific periods of time. So, especially I'm talking about days and dates. So, days, for example, the days of the week, on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, etc. Okay? But also dates, on the 9th of November 1989. Again, if you don't remember dates, go back to the video about dates, okay? So you can find the British and the American versions of dates, okay? Or again, a specific day like my birthday, for example, okay? On my birthday. It is also used for holidays, for festivities, when, okay, this is something very, very particular, so please be very careful here. I use on only when I express holidays or festivities and I have got the word day, okay? So I say on Christmas Day. But if I got the festivity or the holiday without the word day, so just Christmas, I won't say on Christmas, but I will say at Christmas, okay? So pay attention, holidays and festivities only with the word day. No word day than at Christmas, at Easter, at whatever you want. Okay? Then let's go on the other side here. So place. I use on in order to name streets, for example, okay? Preposition in, we talked about countries, towns, neighborhoods. Now we are going more specific, more in detail, and we use on in order to express streets. On Oxford Street, for example. Then again, and that was the definition in red here, then there is the other definition in blue. So on the top of something when something is touching, okay, that surface. Because if it is not touching that surface, then the preposition will be over and not on. So on the top of something, like for example on the desk. Okay, the book is on the desk. The bottle is on the table, and so on the ground, and whatever. Then we use on when we're talking about electronic devices. I'm working on the computer, on my laptop, on my tablet, and so on. I also use on when I find myself on a mean of transport. So on the bus, on the train, but be careful, okay? You don't have to mistake this situation here for another situation that means the way I'm traveling. I am traveling by car, by bus, by plane, by train. I use the preposition by. In this case, it is a place where I stay, okay? And for this reason, I use on the bus, on the train, and so on, okay? Then, again, there are some situations in which I can choose two different prepositions, and both of them are correct, but they've got two different meanings. I made an example here, I wrote this example, but there are many others actually, in which I can use on or at. They're both correct, but they mean two different things. So, on the beach or at the beach. Well, if I'm on the beach, it means I'm laying on the beach, literally. I'm there having a sun bath, okay? I find myself there. But if I say I'm at the beach, it means that probably I'm there on holiday, okay? It's not very important whether I'm on the beach, I find myself there at the very moment, okay? It may also mean that I am next to a beach, I'm there as a general location, I'm spending my holidays there. So they are both correct, but they have got two different meanings, right? Well, let's go on with the final preposition for today, which is the preposition at. Preposition at, as I said before, it expresses a very specific time and the most specific place. Let's talk about time before. So, when I talk about hours, okay, at 5 p.m., at midnight, this is also a very specific time, it's a moment. It's not a period, a part of the day, as we said before, with morning, afternoon, and whatever, okay? Midnight is a very specific moment, even if I don't say the specific hour, okay? So it's at midnight, at 5 p.m., at night. Oh, this is a period of the day, but as we said before, this is an exception. It doesn't use in, it uses at, okay? Obviously, this is just when I'm talking about that specific moment. If I'm talking about a longer moment, I will have to use from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. But this is something different. It expresses a period of time which is long, okay? The duration of that period of time. Then again, specific moments. Well, for example, the expression at the moment. Well, this is obviously the most representative one, so at the moment, obviously. But also other moments during the day, for example, at bedtime, at lunchtime, at sunset, or at sunrise. Okay, so they are very specific moments. I don't say the hour, okay, but I know that they are very specific during the day. And finally, pay attention, so be careful of preposition at when I'm talking about weekends. So weekends can be used with both the preposition at and on. Traditionally, the preposition should be at. Okay, this is British English, at weekends. That's probably the most correct one. But nowadays, in the spoken language, and especially in American English, we tend to use on weekends, okay, on the weekend. So this is not completely incorrect, but if you're writing it in an exam or you're writing it somewhere formal, I suggest you to use the preposition at. Well, there are obviously many other prepositions. For example, if you're curious about the preposition since and for, I suggest you to go and check my video about the present perfect, because I talk about those two prepositions very specifically, okay, and their different uses, preposition of time. I hope this video has been useful for you. If you have any question, please ask me in the comments below. If you have any requests, please write me in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe my channel, please, and to like my video if it was useful for you. Thank you very much for watching, and see you very soon with English Grammar. Bye!